As a species, didn't we get to the moon until 1969? Ayo! And what does it have to do with the printing press? Come on, I'll show you. So our story picks up in 1517 with a guy named Martin Luther, who is a German priest, and shouldn't be confused with the civil rights leader of a similar name. Very different people. Anyway, it's the early 1500s, and Martin is studying to become a priest. Now, Martin doesn't want to be a priest. "Daddy, I don't want to be a priest," is how I imagine the conversation went. "Tough shit," says his father, and off to the priesthood he goes. Until one night he's traveling along in a rainstorm. And out of nowhere, a tree gets struck by lightning. "See, Daddy, God's given me a sign he doesn't want me to be in the priesthood," says Martin with a weird accent. And he leaves the priesthood. Now, at the time in Western Europe, there's only one form of Christianity, Catholicism. That's what Catholic means, universal. So when Martin's studying to be a priest, he's studying to be a Catholic priest. It's not that he had a huge problem with the celibacy thing. I mean, that was an issue, but not the main one. See, Martin and others had some problems with the church at the time. See, Europe was still recovering from the little dance macabre the plague had done 150 years prior. One of the unintended consequences of half of Europe's population going the way of the dodo is a lot of the priests went with them, especially those willing to do their priestly duties, like give last rites to the soon-to-be departed. So now you don't have half the population that was paying taxes to the church, and you have to refill the ranks of the priesthood. And sometimes you're getting people that aren't exactly scrupulous. I know it's weird to think of an amoral priest, but it does happen. Anyway, the church, like any functioning institution, needs to raise money. And one of the ways it started doing that was known as simony. It's not as dirty as it sounds. Instead, it is merely the buying of church offices. So say you're a wealthy businessman and your dickhead second-born son needs a job. Your oldest is going to take over the family business, so what is he going to do? And so maybe you buy him a bishopric for 10,000 pounds of whatever currency the church will take. That doesn't make sense because your dickhead second-born son isn't really religious. "I know," says the businessman, "but that doesn't matter. Because you see, it's the bishop's job to raise tithes or church taxes from his congregation. And so he gets first crack at that money before he sends it on to Rome. And so it turns out buying a church office is a sound business move. And who knows, maybe dickhead gets to heaven in the bargain, and the church gets a little coin in its pocket. What's the problem? Says Martin Luther. Something known as indulgences have also become popular. So the Catholic idea of the afterlife, at least at the time, was a three-tiered system. Up at the top, obviously, heaven. Down at the bottom, obviously, HE double hockey sticks. And in the middle is a place called purgatory. Some people thought purgatory was a little version of HE double hockey sticks, where you went to have your sins purified before you went to heaven. Others thought it was kind of like heaven's waiting room, like an eschatological timeout. Like you're not quite good enough in this life to go straight to heaven, so you gotta wait a little while before you get there. Either way, it sucks. You don't want to be in purgatory. It's better than being in the bad place, but you're still separated from the divine. And so the quicker out, the better. There's a couple of ways to do this. Do your time, or have a priest pray for you. Can't I pray for my loved one myself, you might ask? No, you idiot, the church will reply. God doesn't hear your prayers. But if you do pay a small fee, a priest will make time in his day to pray for your loved one. After all, can you really put a price on dear old mom and dad getting to heaven sooner? Shit, while we're at it, why don't we take it one further? I mean, you know you're going to Vegas for the bachelor party this weekend and some sinning is probably going to occur. Why don't we get ahead of it? Indulge yourself a little. The church's version of pay to play. Anyway, good old Martin said stuff that and dropped out of becoming a priest. It's not that he swore off Christianity. He was still very much a Christian. He just wanted to change the way the church was doing things. So in 1517, Martin Luther nails what becomes known as his 95 Theses to a church door in Wittenberg, Germany. Putting it on the church door is like taking out a billboard. That is the spot everybody put things they wanted everybody else in the community to see, because they knew everybody in the community was going to church. So he was being loud about this. And he knew what was at stake. Because it's not that Martin was the first person to have issues with the church. A guy named John Wycliffe spoke out against the church before Martin Luther. Now, the church just told him to shut the fuck up. But another guy named Jan Hus, also from Germany like Martin Luther, criticized the church about a generation prior. The church, too, told him to shut the fuck up. He said, "I've got a war wagon." He leads a bloody revolt against the church that lasts years. But in the end, the church finally does shut him the fuck up. And now it's Martin's turn. And he knows what he is risking. There's a reason we talk about him and not Jan Hus or John Wycliffe. Because Martin had something they didn't. Timing. Because just as he started to preach against the church, what invention should arrive to Western Europe? Turns out having the idea to go to the moon does not get you to the moon. You have to have the right idea with the right technology if you're going to change the world.